The Downtown Rams podcast is brought to you by Rams On Demand, Seat Giant, Vibe 305, and RWO, Rams World Order. Now enjoy the show.
Down the middle, to the end zone, caught by Brandon Cooks. Shoot your arrows.
It's Pitts. Nickel Roby Coleman
throws. Enzo caught, touchdown. Tyler Higbee. Cooper Kupp walks it out of the air and gives the Rams the lead. LaMarcus Joyner returns to the lineup with an interception in London. 35-30. Robert Wood, first down 20. 10-5. Touchdown. LA! No, it's Goff who keeps it. And Goff goes crashing into the end zone. Aaron Donald almost beat the football there and comes away with his third sack of the afternoon. Met immediately and sacked. Corey Littleton, have yourself a day. And he gets gobbled up. Savage has to eat it as Michael Brockers picks up the sack. He's decked by Ebu Tom. Picked off. Marcus Peters. Strutting his stuff. Mark Barron the last 4 weeks has been a Pro Bowler.
Oh, it's picked off on the play by John Johnson.
After the throw, and we mentioned that is his 8th completed pass in his career.
Cousins sacked. Ndamukong Suh. Of all the guys, it's the rookie John Franklin Myers who knocks it out of Cousins' right hand. Todd Gurley, 20, 10. Gurley for MVP. Touchdown LA.
Welcome back, guys, to another Downtown Rams podcast. This is episode 154. And unfortunately, we come to you after the Rams loss in the Super Bowl to the New England Patriots, 13-3. It is the second time, of course, that Tom Brady has beaten this organization. And, obviously it's disappointing, but like I said to Joe, I mean, you have to be happy to get here. I felt like it would have been a losing season to lose in the NFC title game, to come back at 13 down and beat the Saints and get into the Super Bowl. I think is huge. Obviously you have 33-year-old Sean McVay, you have 24-year-old Jared Goff. Obviously, they're younger. They don't have quite the experience. But this game didn't go the way that I would have expected a Patriots win to play out. I don't think anybody expected. If you told anybody, Joe, I know you made this post, something along these lines. I mean, if someone from the future told you that, this would be the score and the defense would hold the Patriots to 13 points, you would think, the Rams... Probably, the Rams.
Yeah, I went on every radio station. It feels like every radio station across the country, and said that these running backs were going to eat each other up in the pass game. And James White didn't do anything. Todd Gurley, I'm sure we'll get to, didn't do anything in the pass game. And honestly, I'm kind of shocked. I don't know what I just saw. I'm going to stay up tonight and try to rewatch it because I was, I feel like the thing just flew by, and it was just basically a punt fest, and just great defense, obviously. But I do want to echo your your initial thoughts, which is, I think it's important in a moment like this, and I know it hurts, and people are probably not going to want to hear this, but it's the type of thing where it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. We have this complex in America where, people hold championship losses. It's like LeBron getting to the finals every year, and they hold, they give them that L in the finals. It's like, it's like with Brady and Montana. Brady, if he'd have lost tonight, would have been 5-4 in the Super Bowl. And people were starting to say, is it better to be 5-4 in the Super Bowl or 4-0 like Joe Montana? And that's ridiculous. Joe Montana only made the Super Bowl 4 times. He lost in the NFC championship game a whole bunch of times. So, which is, by the way, worse than losing in the Super Bowl. So those are worse seasons. So the bottom line is this team is ahead of schedule. This season was a success the moment they beat the Cowboys. There's now one last season in the Coliseum, a season, by the way, will be Jared Goff's last season without a contract. Before he has his 5th-year option, where his cap number almost triples, or doubles, and so you'll more than doubles. So you'll have this one more season of the team loading up, and then the kind of dynamic will change a little bit. But this team is still growing. This team is still on the upswing, and this team arrived ahead of schedule with like you said, youngest NFC champion quarterback of all time, youngest head coach to ever make the Super Bowl. And, now as we head the off season, I think that, you saw one of my tweets, and my other tweet, I have a story, and the game ended tonight so late that USA Today couldn't run their stuff, couldn't run the stuff from the game. So they asked me to write a story on, 5 questions surrounding the Rams going into the off season. And I put number 1 in there, that, I know there's 3 years left on Sean McVay's contract, but I've seen enough. They need to go out and they need to extend him. At least the bare minimum should be the 10-year, $100 million contract that John Gruden got. If I was Stan Kroenke, that thing would be a generation worth of a contract. So, it's a lot to take in at this moment. And I'm sure it's been a rough night, because not only do you lose a Super Bowl, but to not score a touchdown in a Super Bowl. I was talking to my wife about this, and it's like, it's one way to lose a Super Bowl, but to lose a Super Bowl and not really have that moment, that exultation of yes, or touchdown, it's like, that's awful too. Become the first team not to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl since the 71 Dolphins. Good news about that is 71 Dolphins lost the Super Bowl, didn't score a point, or didn't score a touchdown, and then they went on to a perfect season the next year. So maybe the Rams can use that as a guideline.
Yeah, I think I think this loss hurts Rams fans more because of who it is. If it was the Kansas City Chiefs, and I said this to many of my friends that are like, what are you going to do if we're all, surrounded around the TV and the Patriots are holding up a Lombardi again, beating the Rams? And I was like, you know what? It's weird. I had this calmness all week. I'm not really sure what it was. Whether I was so convinced that this was a winning season regardless of the outcome, just glad to be there and watch meaningful February football, or whether I thought the Rams were that guaranteed to win. But regardless, I have the calmness now. It's disappointing, but I think I was more upset about the Atlanta Falcons game because this was a neutral site. This was the Super Bowl. This is going up against arguably the greatest dynasty in sports history. And you lose that game, you pretty much, people call Tom Brady the GOAT. The Rams neutralized him throughout the entire game. They did a nice job, covering him up. He obviously made a couple really great throws that put them in position to kind of take over. But Wade Phillips, I think, just deserves all the credit in the world for this game, because the game plan really works if the Rams get any bit of their scoring from any of the games this year besides the Bears game. Like, if their offense was any bit of any of the games besides the game in Chicago, they probably end up winning this game with that game plan. But it's just the fact this is the worst offensive performance in Sean McVay's career as a head coach, and I think a lot of that points to the lack of experience, and people talk about that, and it's just experience is experience, but it's exactly why the Patriots were favored. It's exactly why Tom Brady. It's kind of like this thing where you win one Super Bowl, you win another, and it kind of just builds on. And with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, that duo, it doesn't really matter who's out there. I feel like everyone kind of rallies around them. I thought Kyle Van Noy was phenomenal today. I thought he could have been up there for Super Bowl MVP. I think Julian Edelman was great
Yeah, let's
in
talk
a
about
sense.
that.
But I'll say this right now. The Rams let Julian Edelman, take catch after catch over the middle. They were keeping everything in front of them. That was the game plan. That's really what it was. They were going to stop Gronk. They were going to stop Hogan, and they did. And they didn't want James White to gash them, in the passing game. So, really, they just kept letting Edelman, take his plays over the middle. There were a couple miscues where, Peters, I don't even know what he was doing, gets burned off the line, and, then Talib kind of lets him get out and, just kind of, sit down in that soft zone coverage on one of those plays. But really, they were okay letting Edelman, rack up those yards. So, to me, as great as a game he had, and trust me, without those yards, they probably don't, score the touchdown. They probably don't kick the field goal. But, at the same time, I would say that a guy on the defense, like a guy like, I would say, Van Noy, would have been my pick.
An historic game. I think it was Chuck Howley. The last game where somebody didn't score, the last game where a team didn't score a touchdown in a Super Bowl, I believe that had a defensive MVP. I think it was Chuck Howley for the Cowboys over the Dolphins in '71. And when you win 13-3, should have been a defensive player. Could have been Gilmore with the pick. Could have been Hightower with a couple big sacks. I like your idea for Van Noy. But Julian Edelman had a nice day. Didn't get in the end zone. Only 3 of his 10 or whatever, 11 catches, whatever it was, only 3 of his catches led to points. So he had 3 catches on the 2 scoring drives the Patriots had. So he had 3 catches that meant anything in the game. I would have liked, this was an opportunity to go with a defensive player. Should have been a defensive player. But at least it wasn't a quarterback in a 13-3 game.
Yeah, that would have been something. To me, unbiased. Obviously, it's a Patriot. To me, I just look at it and I thought Van Noy made his presence felt throughout the game, and he did a lot of those, those plays where you're like, oh, Aaron Donald with the almost sack. His pressures, his presence was felt. He generated plays that other guys, they got on the stat sheet for. But I just felt like he was all over, in this game. And I would have given him the MVP.
Yeah, and they held Gurley and Anderson, who gashed the Cowboys for 300 yards, to a combined 17 carries, 57 yards, 3.3 a carry. That stands for something, too, when you're making run stops. So, I would have voted for a defensive player. I would have figured probably Hightower. You like Van Noy. Either one of those guys would have been okay for me. And, once again, I have to look back and see it. Let's talk about McVay in the post game. There's been a couple times this year where, they've only lost 4 games, but in the 4 games that they've lost, you always have, and McVay gets up there and takes the blame and, once again, does something that nobody else in this league will do. And, and there's always a couple fans that criticize that. And, I wanted to make it clear. I answered your boy Sky, or my boy Sky, I should say too. But, criticize Sean for his play calling today, I think is totally legitimate. To criticize him for anything coaching wise is totally legitimate. But to criticize someone for taking accountability in a league where nobody takes any accountability is, it's just, I don't agree with it, and that's why I responded to him. And I think, and if you think it's disingenuous that he's taking the accountability, then you can kind of go and say where the accountability should lie. You should, go out and say, Jared didn't have a good game, or the offensive line didn't play well, or we didn't get the defensive play we needed. really, there wasn't a special teams defining moment, although obviously Johnny Hecker, broke at least one Super Bowl record tonight. So, all in all, just one big crap sandwich when you only score 3 points in a Super Bowl. And I think one thing you said off the air, which I think is prescient, is that the whole game you're watching it, and it's like agony because it's right there. You're one play away. It reminded a lot of Patriot fans. It reminded them of the Super Bowl. Was it 2003 when they beat Carolina, and it was like 0-0 until late second quarter, and then there was a flurry of scoring. It ended up being a high scoring game into the 30s. And I kind of expect halfway through the second, I kind of expected that the thing was going to blow up, but both defenses held firm, and it's like a game you never see anymore. 13-3. You don't even see that stuff in high school anymore. So have a dominant defensive performance. And I wonder if it goes once again to the way that the game is officiated differently in the playoffs versus the regular season. I wonder if I go back, if I'm going to see Aaron Donald getting held a bunch and not drawing any calls. And, and not to complain about the officiating, but just to draw a line where, everyone's talking about, in the year of the offense, the year of ridiculous scoring, here we are in the playoffs, and it comes down to defense. And I think, yes, that's true, but I think it's also kind of disingenuous because I think the reason it does that is because the NFL allows the game to be officiated differently in the playoffs than it does the regular season. And I think that's because the regular season is a commercial product. It's about entertainment and having fun, and playoffs is more about competing and letting the best team win. And that's why I don't anyway. I just think it should be a little bit more consistent. But I think that's why why we got everybody in that mess in the Saints game. I think the reason why that the Roby play in the Saints game was let go because that was the way the game was being officiated that day. So anyway.
Yeah, I don't think the officiating was great, but I'm not complaining about the officiating because, like I said, with the Saints, it didn't determine the game. Yeah, I'm not trying to say it determined the winner. I'm just saying it's different.
Well,
exactly. I mean, like at the end of the day, I'm kind of just over the whole referee thing because teams that are good enough to win games don't put themselves in position to have games won based on a call by an official or a no call by an official. And the Rams at no point in this game, even when they tied it, did you really think that they had, a monster chance of taking over this game? And so, in a sense, if you don't get that 15-yard, whatever unnecessary roughness on the quarterback or, something like that, I mean, you kind of put yourself in that position. You didn't pull away. This game easily could have been, the case of the snowball effect. You have Tom Brady first drive, and it's an interception. Great play by Nickel Roby-Coleman and Corey Littleton, who, by the way, if the Rams won, would have been my player MVP of the Super Bowl. Littleton balled out. Now
yeah, he did.
We'll be really quiet on Twitter, Rams Twitter, because anytime he does anything great, it's okay. But when he misses a tackle, we have to hear about it for the next week. I'm just saying. I'm putting that out there. But
yeah, he was excellent in coverage. He had the pick.
He was phenomenal.
And it's part of the reason why they only scored 13 points. Yeah, I think if you were doing like a 3-up, 3-down, I think you got Corey Littleton. I think you got Wade Phillips. I think you got who else had a good day today?
Corey Littleton, Wade Phillips, and I mean, I would honestly say Marcus Peters had a couple huge pass breakups. That
Peters had one of his better games. Yeah, he had a couple. He got beaten a little bit, but he also, responded and played well. He obviously is a different player when Talib is there. I thought Ndamukong Suh. I put speaking of my Twitter account again, I put a tweet out there talking about 4 guys who are free agents and who you want to re-sign between Suh, Fowler, Roger Saffold, and LaMarcus Joyner. And, I think it's probably going to be Saffold because he's so important in the offensive line, obviously, to, such an important aspect of the team. But
to me,
I think
Ndamukong
Suh
come back. Like, how do you...
Well,
that's the first time you tasted that. That's the first time you have touched
I don't think
Super Bowl.
they're not going to have the money to pay him the same amount of money. They can't pay him $16 million, but I think they could give him one more 1-year deal, until the Goff contract
I could see
explodes.
him taking a discount. I mean, you want to stay, you want to win that. I mean, he just wants to win a Super Bowl. I guarantee you he would have retired.
Well, we'll see.
Super Bowl.
If he wants to win a Super Bowl, he could come back for half that.
Yeah,
he'd come back for 8.
Oh, I think that's a good deal for both sides.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he's
the thing
a
about,
$16 billion player.
He's no longer in his prime.
Yeah.
He's no longer in his prime. He's somebody who can, not skate, but, play, kind of roll through the regular season, be good but not great, and then he was legit in the playoffs. He was one of their top 5. If you were going to pick the 5 best players for this team in the playoffs, you can't pick those 5 without Ndamukong Suh.
Yeah, and I like you were mentioning Fowler. I think he was also a pretty key component here. I mean, he just missed, I think, 2 strip sacks on Tom Brady. And speaking of strip sacks, I mean, I'm not trying to gloat or anything in a game where the team lost that we cover, but the Rams had a strip sack out of John Franklin Myers, and your boy right here did mention that would happen. Now, let me just say that I did mention that would be the way the Rams win, and that wasn't the case, but nonetheless, John Franklin Myers probably had 7 snaps, and the fact that he got a strip sack when I literally said he was going to was pretty insane.
On his first snap. The strip sack was on his first snap.
Yeah, I know.
So good for him.
So,
yeah. And we talk so much this week about experience, and he's getting experience. They're all getting experience, and this is and Jared's getting experience. He's going to come back. He's going to be better next year. Obviously, Sean McVay stood up and took the bullet, and you don't want to assign blame, but in a moment like this, I think you have to. You're talking about a Super Bowl lost. If you were going to assign, so if I was going to give you the 3 biggest culprits of, the reason why the Rams lost Super Bowl 53, is it Sean McVay's play calling and usage of Todd Gurley? Is it the offensive line's inability to kind of impose their will and protect Goff and provide running lanes? Or what was the third one that we were just talking about?
Probably Goff.
Or was it Jared, missing open receivers and not pulling the trigger fast enough? Obviously, some of the key moments of the game, there was the time he missed Everett wide open down the seam, didn't throw it. There's a time where he was way late on Cooks.
Yeah, can I play good cop, bad cop here? Because,
those to me, those are my 3 down. Those are the 3 things that, if I was going to assign blame, those are the main portions of the pie right there.
Yeah, I'm really tired of the fact you can't criticize Goff without getting so much blowback. But a guy like Brandon Cooks, who's loved all year, drops 1 pass, and then you try to clump in that he dropped 2 passes, when in reality it was Goff's fault in the back of the end zone. And on top of it, this dude had 120 receiving yards on 8 catches in the Super Bowl. So
yeah, Goff did put that on there. That is something there. I don't think it's equitable, but you do have to bring that up too. He did play well.
That was the
gotta
best,
catch that ball.
That was the best throw Goff made all night. I mean, he put that. I mean, that's the exact throw that Tom Brady hit. And
Are you familiar with the Wes Welker drop? There's
yes.
the schism. So in the 2011 2012 Super Bowl, the 2011 season, the second Giants Patriots game where the Giants the game where the Giants were the better team
The
and the
one where
Patriots kind
Tom
of hung
Brady threw it
around.
over his head and it was Wes Welker's fault.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
So there's that
killed me.
schism there. There's that schism there where in among Patriot fans where, you know, is that a bad ball by by Brady, or should he have caught it? And you know, it's still there. I was hearing, you know, people back east still talking about that play this week, and it's fun. You know, these moments, and that's the thing that stings about this. I'm just seeing it right now. The Cooks play is right now. Is they're showing on NFL Network, and you know, and Rams fans, you know, were tweeting the play in the Steelers Super Bowl. That, you know, kind of brought memories back of that, where the guy's got his hand up and he's you know, open in the end zone, the ball never comes, and
They also lost 31-19. So I'm sorry. Like, you know, it's
no, it was like a definitive moment in the game where then the Steelers piled on it. Like, you know, that game was a one score. Just this game, it was what, a 2-score game, right? It was a 1-score game the whole game, and they piled it on at the end. And it's the same thing, I think, where like and they just showed the other Cooks. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if Ricky Prohl doesn't fumble at the midfield line, when Tabaki Jones came in, I think it was Tabaki Jones, and you know, he knocks the ball out, and I mean the Rams. That was one drive where they really started, you know, gaining traction, and you know, the Tabaki Jones forced fumble killed them. But yeah, I don't want to, you know, go in 5 different directions. My point is, Goff didn't play well, but he threw a beautiful ball to Cooks. Now, my issue is that you want to pin, like I saw, you know, he's a friend of the, you know, on Twitter. He's a nice guy. But I saw this one guy that is a huge Sammy Watkins fan. And he was saying how Sammy Watkins is superior or whatever. And to me, I look at this and I'm like, Cooks had 8 catches for 120 yards. He drops a touchdown, which is kind of a hard catch to make. I mean, the dude's getting snapped.
He's double teamed.
Yeah. So
Goff puts it in the bucket, and he's covered. And the ball, you know, and he gets whacked. So that's not, you know, you have to catch it because it hits your hands. But
yeah, of course,
you know, but it's not, you know, it's not an easy play, and that's why I brought up that's what reminded me of the Welker thing.
Yeah, and then he drops the quote unquote drops Goff's throw where he literally beat his man 18 yards down the field. Goff, you know, saw him late and throws the ball up, and you know, now it's his fault that he's 5'10" and, you know, doesn't have, you know, the 6'5" frame where he can get his feet in bounds, and, you know, he misses the. See, to me, I think the Watkins thing is hilarious because Watkins is one of the main reasons why the Rams lost last year. The Falcons dropping 2 touchdowns, one right in his breadbasket.
If you watch the game plan in the AFC Championship game, the Patriots wanted the ball to go to Sammy Watkins. They barely covered him. And so he put up a bunch of meaningless stats, but when it came time to win the game, he dropped balls and didn't get in the end zone, and he ruined them too. So, you know,
and I'll defend Cooks because I'll die on that hill. I'm totally cool with that. Look, I wasn't a huge fan, if many of you probably remember, of that trade. I didn't think the Rams needed to trade a first rounder away, and maybe my heart was so set on Odell Beckham Jr., and everything I heard was that Odell Beckham Jr. was going to be a Ram, so, you know, maybe it was that. But, you know, the fact of the matter is Brandon Cooks stepped up to the plate. He was a better fit in this offense than Sammy Watkins. A lot of people question if they needed another receiver, you know, because with Josh Reynolds, why go out and get another guy? You know, let Watkins walk and have Josh. But, you know, it comes down to the fact that, you know, the Rams ended up losing Cooper Kupp. And had they not gone out and gotten Brandon Cooks, I don't think they're here. Brandon Cooks was huge on that, bubble screen that really got that drive going. The 20-yard, it's funny, you can pick and choose what you notice and things. People do it a lot with Corey Littleton. They do it a lot with, I thought they did a lot with Alec Ogletree, and then, his play did start to kind of falter down the line. But, the fact of the matter is that Brandon Cooks is one of the main reasons you're here. He's been huge for Jared Goff, and he's signed long term, so get over it. He's going to have another opportunity to make that play. I do believe so. I don't think the Rams are done, and I do want to bring this up because, Joe, this is what I've been telling you, obviously off the air for, a little bit now, and I can't stress this enough. I have seen people mentioning, Atlanta went off the rails when they lost to the Patriots, and Carolina, and Philadelphia, and, of course, the greatest show on turf. This is not a team that's about to do that. Like you mentioned, Joe, they have Jared Goff another year on that very affordable rookie deal where they can still kind of go for it all. On top of that, they have a 33-year-old coach that just experienced a Super Bowl loss. That is going to stick with him. Remember that whole, we'll fix this from Jared Goff? Well, they got it fixed. And remember that whole, Sean McVay, blaming himself for losing against Atlanta in the wild card round last year? They got to the Super Bowl the next year. And like you said, with the Dolphins, that loss, they come back, they go undefeated. I don't think the Rams go undefeated, but I do think that they'll make the Super Bowl again next year. I do think they are at the level of the Patriots. And quite honestly, I just don't think that, while it's really difficult to get back to this game, I don't think any NFC team this year was better than the Rams. I don't think really any team was better than the Rams. If the Rams played at their best and the Patriots played at their best, I think the Rams win this football game. No one expected this from the offense. So this tells me that it was the fact that Goff was not ready for the moment. Sean McVay might not have been ready for the moment. And you know what? That's fine. Because guess what? When you have a team like this, you build a culture like this. You have players like Aaron Donald signed. You have, Todd Gurley signed long term. And, it's going to be okay. You're going to have another opportunity at getting to this point and winning this game. And I think this only helps them in the long run because while you'd love to win a Super Bowl now, if you're going to lose to the Patriots. Because the Patriots, right now, they're the one team where you can't be like, wow, we lost to a team that we're clearly better than. You might be better than the Patriots, and we discussed this, more star power. But the Patriots are the ultimate dynasty. They win games no matter what it takes. Bill Belichick is a mad scientist. So eventually, when they go off in the distance, that will be the Rams' turn. But right now, the Patriots are here to stay until further notice.
I think,
I could definitely see a rematch next year. Could see it.
You got to doff your cap to Belichick in the defensive game plan.
Without a doubt.
So I do want to change gears a little bit. What was it like for you as a Rams fan to watch a game where that, it's kind of slipping away, but you're still one play away from taking over the game? And was it was it torture? Were you staying positive? At your party, what how are you reacting throughout the game, and when did you start to lose hope?
Well, I'm not really a loud fan, surprisingly. I can get loud at times. The Corey Littleton interception got me totally energized. Got off the couch and started pointing at my jersey, all that. But I really wasn't loud. My friend Kyle, who's a Patriots fan, however, was loud throughout the entire game. All sorts of stuff.
They tend to be loud, those ones.
Gotta watch out for them. But, really what it comes down to is I think I stayed calm throughout the whole game because I've seen the Rams lose games from, this looked like a game that the Rams would lose with Fisher. This also looked like a game that they would come back from. Just little things that, you win the turnover battle to start, and then, of course, really that's what it comes down to. That's the backbreaker, Jared Goff, which, I say this all the time, I really, like, when I'm evaluating quarterbacks for the draft, I always want to see if a quarterback is willing to live to play another down. And I see quarterbacks all the time in college, like Johnny Manziel, I was not a fan of, because he would constantly throw it up to Mike Evans, who's 6'5", and what that tells me is what's going to happen when he doesn't have a 6'5" receiver and all that in the NFL. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be good. So I'm not saying Goff does it a lot, but to me, you got to live to play another down. This is the Super Bowl, and you didn't put a good ball out there. You either throw it away or, God, take the sack. You'd rather take that sack, be in field goal range, and make it a 10-6 ball game than throw a back-breaking interception. I mean, you literally could. That's the one thing you couldn't do. And it wasn't a good ball. You threw it to a 5'10 Cooks. So it's not like it's, if Josh was up there, I'm not really a fan of Josh as far as a guy that fights for the 50-50 ball. But I definitely would have been more, at least more inclined to believe that he would have had more of a chance. To me, I just felt like that was a, obviously broken play. Offensive line takes blame as well, but Goff cannot do that in that situation. To me, I felt like the whole game, he wasn't making those big throws to avoid putting himself in that situation. So to watch him throw that interception was backbreaking. I mean, you kind of, the air came out of the room when he threw that. Everyone knew, this game's over. Because asking the defense to constantly stop Tom Brady and the Patriots is just not right.
And they almost got the other.
Did.
Yeah, they got to the fourth down. They forced them to kick the field goal. Gostkowski almost blew it. The thing just snuck in the upright, and Patriots escaped. But it's unbelievable. I think we should kind of wrap this up by just reiterating. I had no idea what the heck just happened. I'm in complete shock, and I'm going to have to watch the thing and break it down again. And we have all kinds of off-season mystery with Todd Gurley, with Jared Goff, with all these free agents now, as the team is going to look different going forward. But I do think there has to be some sort, you have to look into it with optimism that you're going to have Sean McVay. For as long as Sean McVay is the head coach of this team's going to be competitive. They're going to be competing for championships, and you got to believe in your guy because he's brought you this far, and I think they'll get over the hump eventually.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, and Sean McVay, he's 2-2 in the playoffs, and this is his first loss, believe it or not, to an AFC opponent. The Patriots have dominated the AFC. They're the one team every year that you just kind of pencil in the AFC Championship game because no one has proven to really stop them. So, with that being said, I think it's a humbling experience for him. I think this will help the Rams in the long run. Obviously the guys that make it to the next season's roster. With that, just kind of want to go rapid fire, Joe, real quick. Is Andrew Whitworth back next year? Yes or no?
Oh man, that's one other thing we didn't get to. That poor guy. What did you hear his quote about how we all die? He's got to be. Did you hear that?
No,
did you see that? Oh my god!
Don't do that to me, Joe. That sounds awful.
No, I scrolled through my feed and I retweeted it and I was like, this thing just got dark quick. It was like, no matter if you're a 20-time All-Pro or a Super Bowl champion or not, we all die in the end. And I'm like, holy crap! I was like, that's true. We do all die.
Oh my god.
But yeah, I feel like he's probably leaning toward retirement. I think this is the only thing that would keep him going. He did show that he could keep playing. Certainly he dipped a little bit in the middle of the season, but he played really well in the postseason. I think John Sullivan's going to retire. I think Brian Allen or Blythe will be the center next year. They're going to have to figure out what they're doing at both guard positions. I think any number of Sue, Fowler, Joyner, are gone. Barron, gone. I think, there's a situation where one of the two corners could be a cap casualty. Maybe if you feel like Marcus Peters, who was the 139th ranked corner in the league by Pro Football Focus, isn't worth his $8 or $9 million next year. There's also a situation, I don't think that they would say that, but considering Talib only gave you half a season, he only played in 8 games in the regular season, he did not give up a touchdown. So when he played well, and when he was in the lineup, you were one of the best defenses in football, and when he wasn't, you were a mess. I think there's a situation where they could say he's not worth $8 million if he's only given us half a season. So maybe they try to bring that number down, or maybe they cut him. Could be a situation where Troy Hill or Kevin Peterson, is one of those cornerback spots. I think that if you look at it defensively, the guys who are going to be back, obviously Donald. Well, what about Brockers too? He's got a $10 million cap hit, and they could, and he didn't really have that great of a year. So even though he's a good guy in the locker room, I think there's a lot of potential movement defensively. I think the only guys who are he did play. He had one of his better games today. Yeah. I think Donald back, Littleton back, Ebukam back, John Johnson back. Besides that, I think the whole defense is up for debate. Offensively, obviously, all the skill positions are set, which is why I laughed last week, the Deshaun Jackson comments, because it's like, where are you going to put that guy? Maybe if
they
Cooper
couldn't even
Kupp,
get the ball to Gerald Everett in this game. Tyler Higbee was a non-factor. To me, that...
Did Tyler Higbee even get on the field? I didn't even see a tight end today.
I don't know, but who brought... obviously, it's pretty obvious who would bring up a good point, but Tony Romo, during the broadcast, was like, look, the Rams are out of their element right now. Patriots have neutralized the running game, and when you neutralize the running game in a offense that's predicated off of the play action passing attack, you make them one-dimensional. The Rams became more of a shotgun style offense, and that was kind of to that was really to combat the fact that the offensive line that won the Ford Tough Offensive Line of the Year award completely dropped the ball. Blythe, I think, really went downhill as the year went on, and Sullivan just was getting blown up consistently all year. And Whitworth had his moments in this game. I thought Saffold was the best player, and really, it was brutal, honestly, at times watching Rob Havenstein. He got called for a hold, and probably could have gotten called for other holds, and really, that's what it came down to.
What did you think of the Sullivan hold? That was a big call where they're driving to take the lead or tie the game.
Well, I saw
really
it
gets going
worse against Aaron Donald. I try to avoid that because, obviously it's a phantom hold kind of thing. It's not really a hold. I think they almost wanted to throw a flag on Everett for, the block. I think, that kind of, it was so violent that they kind of just threw the flag, and then I think they just kind of backpedaled and like, well, it was on him, and it's like, when they really, because the flag comes out right after Everett delivers the blow, and I've heard analysts, I've heard former players, they've said it before, refs will throw the flag, sometimes when things just look violent, like on an instant. It's kind of like, it's almost as if it's like a reflex type of thing. So refs do that, and I think that was one of those cases where they backtracked and they're like, yeah, it was 65, And to me, yeah, that call was brutal. I thought it was a bad call, and I also thought the one on Roby Coleman was bad. To me, that
was helmet to helmet, though.
It's helmet to shoulder. But the problem is, you're playing at 100 miles an hour, and he goes helmet to shoulder and kind of grazes the helmet. They weren't calling that, earlier in the game. I mean, that happened to, I believe it was Cooks, who seems to always get hit in the head. But
Yeah, because he's short. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean that's kind of my thing. I think the lack of consistency, if you're going to call that, where was it earlier? So the phantom hold was kind of lame because I don't think Aaron Donald got one hold, and I mean he was held the entire game. So it's nothing new. It's something we brought up to our buddy Kyle, the Patriots fan here, who's like, is it me or is Aaron Donald always held the entire play? And I'm a Patriots fan, and I was like, yeah, it's not just you. You can't call it every game, but or every down, but it kind of. Aaron Donald is just going to have to realize that he is the best player in football, arguably the best defensive player, easily, and he has to unfortunately fight through that because he didn't get one of those calls throughout the postseason. I'll say this, Joe, I put this out there. I saw Nick Mullins this year get more roughing the passer calls than Jared Goff. And I'm not talking about
I didn't agree with you on that.
I'm not talking about the one where Goff went, he was almost out of bounds, not quite.
Why is he not sliding? Get down.
Well, I'm not even talking about that. That kind of brought up the, thing for me, because when they started reviewing it, and they're like, is it, are you sure? Is it, roughing the passer? And then, they said it's not. I actually didn't mind that, but I do feel like Goff had a couple of those hits where if they did that to Brady, it would have been called, or if they did that to an Aaron Rodgers, it would have been called, or if they did that to apparently Nick Mullins, it would have been called, because the Rams actually had 2 roughing the passers on Nick Mullins. I did not see Goff get many of them at all this year. So I just thought that was interesting. But, I mean, aside from that, I don't think the officials decided the game, and I think that's the best thing. I think at the end of the day, you have to feel good about a Super Bowl that you played, in, and you didn't win on some, lucky call. You didn't have to listen to that, and, the referees didn't decide the game, and, people will talk about the Super Bowl ad that came out 2 days ago, the Patriots Super Bowl champions, and that'll happen, but regardless, it's stupid because there's one for the Rams too.
Yeah, exactly. That's just some idiot some intern playing the wrong footage. But yeah, I mean, I think ultimately what I can say to Rams fans is, 30 other teams wishes they were playing today. Don't let it get you down. Feel bad for some of the fans that went all the way to Atlanta, spent a lot of money, and didn't get to see their team even score a touchdown. But that's the gamble you take that's why we love sports, because you never know. It could be great. It could be rough. So you don't have the good times without the rough times. So anyway, I want to congratulate the Rams for a special season, and looking forward to year 3 of the McVay tenure. Started up in a couple months at OTAs.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. Obviously this whole year's been fun. The cool thing about the NFL, it's unlike any other league for me, is where, I think covering the off season is a blast. I think, the potential free agency articles that will come out, the podcasting we'll do, the draft especially. I mean, that's kind of like my bread and butter here, and I think you guys are really gonna like what we have. I was considering, I have like 5 interviews that I have in the back end, and I was considering throwing one out, but let's just keep this standalone. The Rams lose to the Patriots in the Super Bowl,
Right.
But the Rams made the Super Bowl. It was a great year. It's the end of the NFL season. If you're obsessed with football, there's football next weekend. The
That's
AAF,
right.
and I know it sounds weird for me to bring that up, but you do have former Rams. I believe the opening game of the AAF season is going to be my team, the San Diego Fleet, taking on my friends. My friend San Antonio Commanders. And Aaron Green is going to be on there. Cole Thompson, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Green will be on that team, as well as Brian Folkers, former Rams, and San Diego's got a whole bunch of former Rams. You talk about Nelson Spruce, obviously, Mike Martz, Azahir Hakeem, Lucuviante Gonzalez. So, there's a lot of guys out there, and I don't know, Joe. I'm really looking forward to this league. I know you are. I will be kind of throwing out some articles here and there on it, just based on individual former Rams performances, and it'll be fun. I think having that in the spring is perfect. I love the game of football, and I think anyone that is trying to not stop watching football, either watch film, watch NFL film, watch college film, or watch the AAF. And the AAF you can find on CBS Sports, NFL Network, and Bleacher Report Live. So definitely check that out. But that is it for this show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Once again, thank you for an amazing season. This was our biggest podcast season ever, and it's been 2 years, and it's been awesome. So also big thanks to Joe Curley. He takes his time and spends it with this guy. So I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And
we have fun.
He busts his butt, coming out with great content constantly, as writing articles, and then he comes on here and offers his insight. So it's been a lot of fun. Obviously, we're going to keep doing it, and just keep it right here, downtownrams.com, Downtown Rams Podcast. We'll bring you all the content you need to, get us back to the 2019 season and another Rams Super Bowl. So thanks again, guys, and you guys take care.